Hello, hello to my True Blue crew. Here we are on the first Saturday of November 2022, and it is time for our monthly sew and chat. Grab a project, sketchbook, handwork, knitting, crochet, cross stitch, any of the fiber arts, and sit and join us. Whatever project you're working on, I would love it if you say hello in the chat, drop your name and where you are joining us from, share a little bit about your project, because I really do want this to be interactive rather than just me rambling on, although I can certainly do that as well. But I do like to have a project going to kind of give us something to talk about. And since we are now into the holiday season, we just passed Halloween, and everybody's thoughts immediately turn to Christmas. Although we do have that wonderful Thanksgiving holiday in between, which is um, one of my most enjoyable days. I love just hanging out with my family on those holidays, and Thanksgiving is a wonderful time. Although I do burden my mother with all the cooking. I do not cook much, but I suppose if we substituted chicken breast for turkey, I could manage some of the side dishes at least. And I married the youngest child in his family, and so he always was assigned to bring the rolls. Easy peasy, stop by the store and grab the rolls on your way to family dinner. So I thought that coasters or mug rugs would be a good gift item, something quick and handmade, a way to use up some of those extra little bits of fabric that we all seem to accumulate. And this is a version that I was given at a retreat. And it was an October retreat. So the seamstress pulled out her fall Halloween fabric. So that is one version, but we're going to start with an easier version than this. So what I did was I grabbed some 5-inch squares, or cut some 5-inch squares from my leftover scraps. And you may recognize this if you visited the True Blue Quilts blog. On the 1st of November, I shared the monthly color challenge, and this was the fabric because the color of the month for the monthly color challenge was brown. And this just happened to be some brown fabric in my stash. So the first type of coaster that I want to make is just really easy with 5-inch squares. So here's another 5-inch square. I have pressed these all in half. So you need 5-inch squares to make the coaster. And we are going to, obviously not obviously, I haven't told you how to do anything yet. But when we sew, we typically lay right sides together, and we will do that again today. So we're going to start with our base background, the back of our coaster face up, and we're going to lay one of those folded in half pieces across that backing. And then we will lay the next one down, and we put it at right angles there. I have the folded section of my fabric to the center of my square and raw edges to raw edges there. And I'm going to make sure that gets lined up just right. Take my next one, put the fold to the middle. So there it is with 3 fabrics. And now I need to put the last one in place. And this one is going to be a little bit tricky to demo because I need to weave this. So I need to put one square visible, and then I need to tuck the other one underneath the first strip so that you get a 4 patch kind of woven together there. And Then we are going to take a 5-inch square of batting and lay that on top. And so now we want all our edges lined up. And so I need to do a little bit of clean up here to get all my pieces square and in place, since I was kind of doing this in midair. And there we have an inside out quilt sandwich. We've got the batting on top. We've got our 4 layers of coaster top fabric, and then we've got a solid piece underneath. And I am going to stitch a 1/4 inch all the way around. There's no gap. So 1/4 inch all the way around. So let me do that. And do I have, I guess the bobbin thread doesn't matter because it's not going to show anywhere. So I will get set up, turn the camera a little bit so you can see what I'm doing in my messy collage souvenir board. And so, like I said, I am just sewing a 1/4 inch. Nope. Because I put a new spool of thread in and I didn't thread my needle. So it always helps. Having bobbin thread and threading your needle make the sewing adventure a little bit easier. So I sew down the one edge until I get to about a 1/4 inch, and then I turn, and I'm not quite there. So let me take another couple stitches, needle down, turn, and we will continue sewing a 1/4 inch. Sewing a 1/4 inch. That's the 3rd side, and here we go down the 4th side. At a 1/4 inch, and since I started partway down, I need to finish that first side. And sometimes my machine gets fussy and it doesn't want to do anything. I'll trim that edge. So now I've got just my 1/4 inch seam all the way around, and I'm going to clip the corners. And by that, I just trim off that corner a little bit away from the seam line. I don't want to catch any stitches, but I just want to reduce the bulk in those corners. And then, oh crap. I didn't do this right because you were supposed to turn it, but the only way you can turn it is if the layer is on the outside. So we will just live TV. I didn't do a test. It's one of these things that you hear about that sounds easy enough. So I've ruined this one. We'll have to redo it because I had to slice into the batting because I need to see my hole, and then I can turn it right side out through the gap in the folded fabric. There we go. Remember which fabric is your backing because that will go So there's the concept, is that we turn it all inside out and then it's got batting, but I screwed that one up. So I'll take that apart another time and redo that. But I cut a second one. So we'll try this again. My backing squares fell on the floor. So lay your batting on the wrong side of your background. Okay. I was trying to avoid putting my batting down on the machine bed, but I will be okay. And then again, I've got my folded pieces of fabric, different color scheme this time, and I'm going to layer them again on my quilt sandwich with the folded edge to the center, raw edges on the outside of the quilt sandwich. And you tuck that one under. This way I'll be able to reach in there and turn it inside out. So we've got batting, fabric, solid fabric, and then woven folds of fabric. And then I'm wondering if I suppose I could pin these and they wouldn't get out of place. And okay, so I pinned, you can see I put a couple pins in the folded part to keep that together. And I'm going to sew with the batting side up. So 1/4 inch all around. Okay, I need some folks to talk to me in the chat. What are you working on today? And are you laughing hysterically that I can't get my fabric lined up correctly? Have you ever made coasters like this? Okay, so take 2. We have sewn a 1/4 inch all around. Doesn't have to be perfect. I can unpin this so I don't stab myself. Clip the corners. Okay, and now we're ready to turn inside out, and the batting will actually be on the inside, and we've got a hole here because these were just folded on top of each other. So I'm going to push that the other way and grab my purple thing. I love the purple thing, especially for poking corners and turning things inside out, getting those. Okay, that's one corner. Poke, poke, poke. Get the other corner. Out there. I don't know what I did with the fabric there, but that wasn't. So a quick little like 20-minute project by the time you cut the fabric and go around those. So if you are so there we have our finished coaster, all ready to put your drink on. And the fun thing about these is if you have a wine glass, you can put the base of your wine glass in there and spin it around, and it will sit in actually inside the coaster. So then at your parties, no one ever loses their wine glass because they've got hopefully an individual coaster. And that's what I like about handmade gifts is you can really customize it to an individual. And yes, I know you can do the same thing at the store. You can shop for people's favorite colors and things, but I know my mother-in-law collects cardinals. And so if I find a fabric that has cardinals on it, you don't always see those prints in the store. And so that's a lot of fun. So there is our first version of the coaster. Remember this one, the batting I screwed up. And so I had to cut the batting. And so it's all wadded up and nasty on the inside there. But I can take that apart and redo that so that I have a set that is a 4-patch. But then the variation is what we saw on my sample with the triangles. So similar concept. I've got 4 charm squares, 5-inch squares that I pressed in half. And I'm going to do the same thing. So I put my batting layer first, then my top layer. And then I'm going to weave these triangles. And again, we want the fold to the center and the raw edges to the outside. So I'm going to lay the matching ones down first. And of course, you can use 4 different fabrics. I just didn't plan ahead, story of my life, and could only find 2 fabrics that I liked together instead of 4. So I'm just folding back the fabrics so I can make that over under woven appearance of that hourglass block. And again, I want to put some pins in so I can have the fabric side down on my machine and sew the with the batting side up. That makes me feel a little better as I'm working here. And again, we're going to sew with a 1/4-inch seam on our quilt sandwich. The other thing you could do with these is make a set of placemats and then have matching coasters. So that would be a fun coordinated handmade gift. So let me know in the chat if you are hand making any gifts this holiday season. These coasters would be a great hostess gift if you're invited to any parties or staying overnight with friends or anything, you could give them a little coaster set. And they have such cute fabric that has like wine bottles and different, like I've seen some with beer cans and just fun coffee mugs. Would be a fun fabric to use for coasters. So it looks like we've done something wrong because we've got the right side of the fabric and then the batting's exposed, but I'm going to turn this inside out. So find the hole where your fabrics overlap and just use that as the hole to flip everything inside out. And then once you get the corners, whoops, I didn't trim my corners. Always a nice part of the project to make things lay nice and flat. Get rid of some of that excess bulk there. Okay, now my corners are trimmed. You can see that flat edge. Now I can go in there to the center, and kind of tricky with triangles. You never quite know where your right side and your wrong side are with those. Struggling there to get these turned right side out. Get as much as you can done with your fingers, and then, as I said, I use my purple thing. I wouldn't use a seam ripper. Obviously, you could poke right through your project there, but the eraser end of a pencil works nicely to poke those corners out. A pen, if you've got the lid on, would be a good tool. A chopstick, something like that to poke those corners and get those done. A knitting needle might be too sharp. A crochet hook. But again, you've got a nice coaster, and the glass can rotate down in there, the base of the wine glass, and then you can carry your glass and your coaster around the whole evening. So I made the 4-patch version and the hourglass version of those, and I've got fabrics folded to do one more because I was hoping to have some pairs. I don't know. What would you say for the number of coasters that you should have in a set? I'm thinking 4 or 6, but I just had to change my settings because I wanted to see if anybody had been chatting. But you guys are awfully quiet today. Let me know what's going on. I didn't have enough of this fabric to make 4, so that's why I grabbed this other colorway of fabric. But I suppose if you just had a random basket of different colors, that would work for the party aspect. Everybody has a different color and they can keep track of their own wine glasses at the oh so sophisticated dinner party. Um, but that's just an idea for some coasters. So let me get this last one made. And I did wrong side of my backing fabric to the batting. And then I lay that fabric side up and arrange my folded triangles so that they weave together over under, alternating the two kinds of fabric. And again, you can use 4 different colors if you want, and keep the raw edges to the outside of the square. And on another day, I will make a overhead video so you can see how I wove those together, just like I said, over under as you do those around the block. And then I get those in position. And I pin them down because I want my fabric on the bottom, under the, as I go under the needle. I don't want my batting under the needle. Personal paranoia there. I don't think it really makes that much difference, but then we are sewing a 1/4 inch. The other reason I like this project is it uses up my batting. I'm a long arm quilter, and so I always get these bits of batting left over. And my quilts are never the exact same size as the batting that comes out of the bag or off the roll. So I have these random pieces because I do like to have at least 4 inches around my quilt when I load it on the long arm. That just gives the long arm quilter room to stitch to the edge of your project. So if you've ever been wondering why the quilter needs extra batting and backing, that's why, is because we need, if you want us to stitch all the way to the edge, we need that extra room for the frame or the leaders, pins, clamps, etc., to load the machine. But any of these little projects are great to use up those scraps. I think I either made this one a little small or didn't get it lined up right on the batting square. Because I've got a lot of fabric on one side and a lot of batting on the other side. I think if I did this another dozen times, I might have the process down. So you can see what I mean, I didn't have those lined up exactly right, but oh well. So then I take my pins out and I find the center of my, whoops, cut off the corners. And then, yeah, I gave myself like a generous 3/8 almost. Oh my gosh. I'm just trimming all this excess away, or it's going to be really bulky inside the coaster. So find your center there and just turn everything inside out. Do the hokey pokey. Turn yourself about. That was always my junior high Saturday activity, was going to the roller skating rink. And they would end every session with the hokey pokey. And one time, I'm thinking or maybe it was a bonus, they would like drop coins from the center, the disco ball. But that would hurt, as I'm thinking back on it, to have raining coins down from in the center of the skating rink that we all scream, kind of like the idea of hitting a piñata at the end of the party and having all the candy fall. Maybe it was candy, probably a safer option than coins, but for some reason makes me think of that they were dropping money. But I've got money on the brain with that Powerball drawing coming up. For those of you that play the lottery, someone is gonna get rich. Okay, and there we have another hourglass. So 2 versions, pretty psychedelic there with those patterns on that batik fabric, right? So you can use fabric rectangles that are, excuse me, the squares folded in half, hot dog style, or you can fold in half on the diagonal to make the hourglass blocks, 4-patch hourglass, whichever version you like. And then the other thing I was going to try were hexagon coasters. So this takes a little bit more prep. And I didn't get everything. It's been busy. Life, the holiday crazy season, crazy busy time is upon us. So I went to the computer and I did a Google search for 4-inch hexagons, because I figured 4 inches was a good coaster size, and printed my foundation. So this is my template now that I need to cut out with my paper scissors. I'm not using my fabric scissors on paper. So I'm cutting out a paper template to make hexagon coasters with this same woven, turn it inside out technique. And I will cut my batting fabric first. So I've got the template there. I suppose I can pin it in place right on the edge so I don't waste too much. And then I'm just going to go around this template with my rotary cutter here on my little cutting mat that I keep next to my machine. And I'm just cutting one layer of batting because this is totally an experiment. Never done this before. Just seeing what shapes work for our coasters. So I cut the hexagon shape out of my extra batting. And things are falling on the floor all over the place. I've got a little trash bucket behind me. Get things out of my way so I actually have a surface to work on. Oh, goodness. Excuse me as I see what is going on. Let me quick text my husband. Okay, and then I will turn that off, notifications off, so it doesn't ding and scare me to death again. So as I said, I'm a long arm quilter and we get random strips. So I made a patriotic quilt and this was the excess backing, but I don't think, nope, I can't get two cuts out of that. Looking around to see if I have any other. One moment. A scrap of blue fabric that's big enough to cut my hexagons out of. So I need 6 pieces of fabric in that hexagon shape. So I will use this scrap. Of blue, and I need, it's not, to go this way. Getting things all lined up, and there's extra threads and stuff and things, so trying to, if you cut your 4-inch strips of fabric, then you'd be all set to cut 4-inch hexagon shapes. But I did not do that. So it's taking me a minute to get all set up. Okay, so I did most of it with my rotary cutter, but I didn't get the edges because I'm kind of freehand winging it and I didn't want to cut my fingers. So I've got my hexagon piece there, and all of a sudden I've lost the because it blended in with the table. Okay, so I've got 2 of those, 2 blue, and then we'll do 2 red and 2 of the patriotic, and that will, got enough to fit there. So a couple more cutting things. Let me stand up so I can do this a little more efficiently. Find a straight edge, that helps. And we will pin our template in place. That's another key component to trimming these hexagons. And like I said, you need 6 total because there's 6 sides on a hexagon. These are slip sliding everywhere. You didn't know you had signed up to see a blooper reel this whole time. I just feel like I'm not making much sense. Thanks for hanging out with me. You see the real life experimentation as we make our holiday coasters. Um, just kind of an experiment. I hadn't done this kind of project and wanted to see what we could come up with since we're approaching the gift giving season, this time when you visit people, you like to have a little gift to give them. And I thought coasters would be a fun, easy little option. Also for quilt guilds, if you do an exchange with any of your quilting friends, these little coasters are handy, especially if you are sewing in, at a group and you obviously want to take your water or a drink, and it's always nice to have a coaster under your glasses in those types of situations. Okay, so I've got my 6 layers of top fabric, and I need one more layer, of course, for the base. So I'm going to cheat a little bit on this one. Where is my 4-inch line? Is right there. Turn this around so I can. So I gave myself a little bit bigger than 4 inches so that I can layer. I'm layering fabric right side up, then batting to the wrong side of the fabric, as I learned in the first iteration of this. And then it would have been smart to leave my iron on, but I didn't. So we're going to finger press. And I just took my hexagon and I finger pressed in half. And then raw edges are going to go to the outside of the batting. And just like I did on my other coasters, I'm going to do over under all the way around with my 3 different colors. So I'm folding in half. Putting raw edge to the outside, and then taking my next color and same thing, fold in half, raw edges to the outside. And I've got 3 in place. So you can see this, the red, white, and blue fabric is going to be visible underneath this red one. The red one's visible underneath the blue. And now it's time to put my next red, white, and blue. So continue the same color scheme. And then I need to fold this so that my hexagons or my directional fabric, so it makes a difference as to how it is folded in half with that print. And then we okay, now I'm getting myself all confused as to how I'm going to weave this together. Is it just the 3? Ooh, tumbling blocks. That's kind of cool. I was trying to figure out how I would lay the other 3 fabrics on there to keep the over under going, and you don't need to. Because, yeah, you'd get way too many layers of fabric in there. Okay, but I just did that on the wrong thing because it needs to be on the backing fabric. So this isn't rocket science, but sometimes I'm just a little spatially challenged. So, okay. I thought I could do it without trimming the background fabric, but I can't because I need to see where my edges are to line up the top. Comedy of errors today. If you want to see the hardest way ever to make coasters, watch my channel. But you notice the tagline is enjoy experiment and excel as you quilt. So this is the experimental phase. Okay, so backing and batting, and now I can layer my little folded hexagons so that the center, the fold is to the center. We've got those all lined up on the edge. There we go. Like I said, it took me a minute to... Okay, so the way this goes for a hexagon, you've got the double layer of fabric, so the red and blue are overlapping here. And then the next side is just red. And then the next side, we've got a double layer and then just a single layer. So it's a little bit of a mind bender exercise. Like I said, sometimes these spatial relationships just elude me. I don't think in 3D. I think in 2D, I can make the quilt blocks really easily, but getting these 3D elements sometimes is a challenge. So I'm going to pin my fabrics in place and then sew with the fabric side down so that I'm looking at the batting. And again, I'm going to start in the middle of one side and just sew a 1/4 inch from all 6 sides. Kind of have to eyeball where that turning point is on the hexagon since it's not a right angle. I don't always like to use the automatic scissors on my sewing machine because it doesn't leave a long enough tail of thread, and then I get a mess when I go to start the next piece. So we've got batting showing, we've got our fabric showing. So you want to find that center and turn it inside out after you snip the corners. So again, I'm going to flatten these corners out so that I don't have quite as much bulk when I turn those corners. And again, my 1/4 inch is kind of wonky here on these shapes. But we just go through the center and turn things right side out, and then trying to find the edges and press this back into a hexagon shape. I'm just pushing out those sides, finding the seam line, and that guy is tiny, but it's a little, it just barely fits around the bottom of my water bottle. So that's just, I think that's adorable. I love that tumbling block, 3D cube looking little coaster. So how much fun. It's like a Thin Mint. It's just so tiny and cute. Delicious. Okay, so you lose a 1/2 inch. So I'd probably want to go up to, because this was supposed to be a 4-inch. I started with a 4-inch hexagon, but look at how tiny it ends up compared to the 4-inch square. So you probably want to do 5 inches or 6 inches to get a good size coaster or mug rug out of a hexagon versus a square. And so we have our 3, let me show them this way, our 3 variations of coasters: hexagon, 4-patch, and hourglass, with triangles, rectangles, hexagons. So that is a fun little holiday idea. This, I wouldn't make these as a coaster. I would find a button to sew in the middle there and just make these cute little ornaments. Don't you think that an ornament works better than a coaster for those little hexagon tumbling block things? I'm in love with these little guys. So that is our holiday project. And I thank you for joining me live. I schedule these for 2 hours as I'm cleaning up all my scrap bits here. So that was the main topic, and everybody's quiet today. Nobody's left me messages. So please drop a comment, say hello so that this can be an interactive sew and chat. But I also appreciate if you're just sewing away and letting me ramble in the background with my experimental coaster project today. Oh, Carol, thank you so much. She said she enjoyed seeing what I was working on. So I'm glad. And thank you again for spending part of your day here with me. The big event this weekend has been Market, the International Quilt Festival in Houston. And the week prior to the quilt show opening to the public, it is called Market. It is the trade show aspect for business owners, quilt designers, accessories, notions, sewing machine dealers, the big Checker note that sells all the notions, Moda, Free Spirit, Riley Blake. I'm, naming as many quilt fabric manufacturers as I can. They all have their booths. A lot of the big name designers, even some of the smaller name designers, pay to have a vendor booth. So the vendor mall is huge. I went, as I've mentioned on my show before, that my mother used to have a fabric store. And so I went to market with her 2005, 2006, that time frame. So a long time ago, and huge convention center. And, so huge quilt show, hundreds of quilts on display. And then it felt like 4 miles of vendor halls. And I've heard from other people inside the quilt industry that the show has shrunk a little bit over the years, obviously coming back after the pandemic. Has been hard, but even before that, the show was shrinking, and people inside the industry were concerned, and they're just trying to figure out what was going on. People obviously like to mingle and be there, so why wasn't the show doing as well as it had in prior years? And there's been some speculation that it's the internet. Fabric designers, fabric companies will preview their new lines online, their new fabric collections. They'll show sneak peeks. Designers can instantly share their work as it's created, because we've got this instant access of these premiere video opportunities. And so it kind of takes some of the surprise away of having to be in Houston to see all the latest and greatest. We all know when the new collections from our favorite designers are coming out, and we look for those online. So it takes away some of the premiere event aspect of having the market every year. Excuse me. But I'm sure it is a fabulous event for everyone that can attend in person. And there really is no substitute for seeing someone face to face. I know we try to have these community events online, but you just lose some of that interaction when you are speaking to a screen instead of someone in person. So if you've had the chance to go to Houston to Quilt Market or Quilt Festival, please share your memories there. And, right now they're competing with the World Series, because the Houston Astros are in the World Series, as they have been for several of the past few years. They've become a very powerhouse baseball team if you follow professional sports. I do enjoy baseball, but I am one of these championship game only fans, not even fair weather, because it's not like I only follow my own team. Obviously, I do pay more attention when it's a hometown Arizona team, but yeah, I'll tune into the World Series. I don't know any of the players on any of the teams, but just having that, big dramatic moment, I guess I enjoy the spectacle. Same thing with the Super Bowl for football season. I don't follow football much other than the Cardinals. And I know which teams are doing well this year, just, because I listen to those sports cast wrap-ups. Professional basketball, not my favorite. I don't follow professional men's basketball. I'm a little more in tune with women's basketball, but men's college basketball. So it's kind of flipped. I'll watch the professional women, but not the college women. And I'll watch the college men and not the professional men in terms of basketball. But yeah, basketball is my favorite sport to watch. Grew up playing in the marching band, so we were at all the football games. So I do enjoy a good football game. And just my family really, really loves baseball and follows baseball. So I do pay attention to that. So that kind of wraps up the whole world of quilting and sports for you, because there's market going on, there's the World Series, and um, we're ready to grab a beverage because we've got our coasters done. So I am going to cut this stream a little bit short today, losing my voice. It's feeling a little scratchy. And I was up way too early this morning. So it's time to say goodbye. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with me. And we will have another Saturday sew-in chat on the first Saturday in December. So I hope to see you then. Have a good afternoon, evening, morning if you're catching the replay. And I always enjoy hearing from you. So you can drop a comment or send me an email, and I'd love to chat. So I hope you have a wonderful quilty day. Take care.